All right, good afternoon, East Alabama and West Georgia. Dr. Don back in here with you. It is 12:53 p.m. Central, 1:53 p.m. Eastern on your Saturday. It is March 15th, 2025, and we are on air to give you information about some severe weather outbreak. This is going to be, already has been, and currently is a dangerous, severe weather outbreak across the southeastern United States. And we are going to be giving you some information here in the next few minutes that will help you be safe during this outbreak of severe weather. Now, the National Weather Service, in coordination with the Storm Prediction Center, has just issued a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch that does cover a large part of Alabama, and we'll take the radar full screen, and I'll show you where that tornado watch currently exists. I'll zoom out so you can see the entire state of Alabama. Anywhere inside of that flashing purple, if that's where you're located, you are now under a PDS tornado watch. It's a particularly dangerous situation. So there are two levels of tornado watches. You have just your typical run-of-the-mill tornado watch, and then you have a PDS tornado watch. And that's what we're looking at here, and this has just been issued in the last few minutes or so. And if I can get the verbiage of that up, and I have it now, I'm just going to read this to you. And this is a tornado watch for portions of western, central, and northern Alabama and southeastern Mississippi, effective this Saturday afternoon and evening from 12:25 p.m. until 8 p.m. Central. This is a particularly dangerous situation. They don't issue particularly dangerous situation watches, folks, at will. This is a very serious situation that needs to be listened to, and you need to take the precautionary measures to protect yourself and your family. The primary threats will include numerous tornadoes and several intense tornadoes expected. We're expecting scattered damage, winds, and isolated significant gusts, 75 miles per hour likely. That's other than tornadoes. Scattered large hail and isolated very large hail events to 2.5 inches in diameter will be likely. Now, we haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about hail, but understand a hailstone at 2.5 inches in diameter will cause serious damage. So don't lose sight of that possibility. Intense supercell storms capable of producing numerous tornadoes will spread eastward from Mississippi into Alabama this afternoon and evening. Given the very favorable environment, multiple intense to potentially violent tornadoes, we're talking EF2s, 3s, and 4s, appear possible. Clusters of thunderstorms and embedded supercells will also pose a threat for severe damaging winds of 60 to 75 miles per hour and large hail around 1.5 to 2.5 inches in diameter. Now, the tornado watch area is approximately along and 65 statute miles east and west of a line from 20 miles northeast of Huntsville, Alabama, to 55 miles west-southwest of Greenville, Alabama. Let's see. Let me just read on here. Tornado watch means that conditions are favorable for tornadoes and severe thunderstorms in and close to the watch area. Persons in these areas should be on the lookout for threatening weather conditions and listen for later statements and possible warnings. So again, remember, a watch means that conditions are favorable. It doesn't mean it's happening yet. It just means that conditions are favorable. Now, there are a lot of counties in Alabama. We're talking over 2/3 of the state of Alabama now covered by this PDS tornado watch. But I'm going to read the counties for you because I really want this to hit home. And if I name your county, you are included in this PDS tornado watch. Now, for you folks who are outside of the watch, don't let this cause you to let your guard down saying, oh, we're not in the watch, we're going to be good. Because I can almost guarantee you that this watch will be pushed further east as we get into the afternoon hours. So you folks right there in East Alabama, West Georgia, and the Dr. Don coverage area that are not covered under this watch, just stand by. It's almost certain that this watch will get pushed further east as we go throughout the day. But here are the counties that are involved at the moment. Autauga, Bibb, Blount, Butler, Calhoun, Chilton, Choctaw, Clark, Colbert, Conecuh, Coosa, Coleman, Dallas, DeKalb, Elmore, Etowah, Fayette, Franklin, Greene, Hale, Jackson, Jefferson, Lamar, Lauderdale, Lawrence, Limestone, Lowndes, Madison, Marengo, Marion, Marshall, Monroe, Montgomery, Morgan, Perry, Pickens, Shelby, St. Clair, Sumter, Talladega, Tuscaloosa, Walker, Washington, Wilcox, and Winston counties of Alabama. So the only county that is in the Dr. Don coverage area of East Alabama and West Georgia that is included at the moment is Talladega County. That's the furthest east county in this watch. But again, that will get pushed further east as we go throughout the afternoon. Mississippi, George, Greene, Perry, Stone, and Wayne counties are included in this PDS tornado watch that is now in effect for a large part of Alabama, extending back into portions of Mississippi. And I've lost my mouse. Let me get that back over here and get that full screen. Let me go back. There's one thing I want to look at. And we're going to look at the radar in just a few moments. Look at the probabilities here. So the probabilities for this PDS tornado watch, probability of 2 or more tornadoes is at 95%. Probability of 1 or more strong tornadoes, we're talking EF2 to EF5, 95%. Probability of 10 or more severe wind events, 70%. Probability of 1 or more wind events at 65 knots, 60%. Probability of 10 or more severe hail events, 70%. Probability of 6 or more combined severe hail wind events, 95%. Those are some pretty crazy probabilities for you. Okay, this PDS tornado watch is valid until 8 p.m. this evening. That's what I was looking for. So there you go. And you can see that we do not have any severe weather in Alabama at this time. There are no warnings in effect. This is just this PDS tornado watch that was just issued. However, if you'll look over in the great state of Mississippi, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tornado warnings. And all of them have confirmed tornadoes. So we have one west of Starkville. We have one right on top of Tupelo. We have a complex there southeast of Jackson, to the west of Hattiesburg, and then one right there on the Louisiana-Mississippi state line just east of I-55, to the northwest of Bogalusa, or to the southeast of Macomb, Mississippi. So when you see one with this type of polygon, that is a tornado emergency. I'm going to read this one to you. A tornado warning remains in effect until 1:45 p.m. for northwestern Marion County. This is in Mississippi, southeastern Lawrence, and Jefferson Davis counties. At 12:58 p.m., a confirmed large and destructive tornado was located near Salem, Mississippi, or 15 miles west of Columbia, moving to the northeast at 50 miles per hour. If you know anyone who lives in the path of this storm, call them now. Be a hero. A tornado emergency for southeastern Lawrence and northwestern Marion County. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Take cover now. So a tornado emergency is when we know for a fact we have a tornado on the ground. It's been confirmed. We have weather spotters in the area. We have law enforcement. We have firefighters who are watching this storm cause destruction. That's what happens when you have a tornado emergency. And that's certainly going to be possible in parts of Alabama later on today. So you need to understand these terminologies. A tornado emergency is as bad as it gets because that means it is actually on the ground causing damage. Now, if you see a polygon that's just flashing, like this one is near Tylertown, Mississippi, this is a tornado warning. And this is a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located near Kentwood or 13 miles north. And in this case, we don't have a confirmed tornado, but radar is indicating that we may certainly have a tornado. It just may not be on the ground yet, or it may be. So we don't have a confirmed report that this one's on the ground. So that's a severe thunderstorm warning, potentially producing a tornado. I'm just showing you what this stuff looks like because later on, I'm afraid we're going to be dealing with it a little closer to home. This is a tornado warning that remains in effect until 1:45 p.m. for northwestern Jasper, western Newton, and northern Smith and southeastern Scott counties in Mississippi. This is a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado also. Then we go back up into northern Mississippi. This is up to the northwest of Louisville, Mississippi. This is a tornado warning for northeastern Holmes and northern Attala counties. That has just been canceled. Tornado near Tupelo, Mississippi. This is just south of Tupelo. And this, too, is a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. About to cross over 22, just to the east of Tupelo. And then we zoom back out, and we're looking up there at Nashville. There's a little small basketball game is being played up there at this hour in Nashville. Tennessee and Auburn are battling it out on the court, and just looking to see, and there's nothing threatening Nashville right this moment, but if you look back to the southwest, we do have a line of thunderstorms coming right up I-40. It's out there around Centerville and Dixon, Tennessee at the moment. Will probably be in the Nashville area in about an hour. Right now, there's nothing significant with that line, but that could change. Also of note, we have thin cloud deck now covering most of East Alabama and South Georgia and back, or South Alabama and then back into Georgia. But that is allowing the atmosphere to warm up. So instability will certainly be in place as these storms continue to move across Alabama. So I had some things I had to do locally, and it involved a special weather webinar with the National Weather Service out of Peachtree City. And I jotted down some notes on some things that the lead meteorologist was talking about during that webinar. And one of the glaring messages, we typically think of nighttime storms weakening as they move into East Alabama, West Georgia, and especially up here in the Northeast Georgia mountains, because they're moving through during nighttime hours when there's no sunlight. So you're losing the surface instability. So typically thunderstorms weaken. Well, not so much in this particular case because we have such wind shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere. From 1,000 to 3,500 feet, we have winds running at 70 to 80 miles per hour. That's in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So you get some of these big convective thunderstorms on top of that jet stream that's streaming at 70 to 80 miles per hour. It will mix some of that wind down to the ground when the rain falls through that wind. So rain, of course, is water. So that water will push that wind to the ground as it moves through. So the message here is this is not going to be a case of weakening storms as we get into the nighttime hours of the cover of darkness. The storms will maintain their intensity. And we're going to have, I think, a number of tornadic thunderstorms across Alabama, especially West Alabama and Central Alabama. And they're going to be long-track tornadoes, and they're going to survive even after dark into East Alabama, West Georgia, and maybe even up here in Northeast Georgia. So this message applies to everybody. Heads up. Here we go. I have not even looked in the chat room yet, but I guarantee you somebody's asking about a particular location. Understand, in this setup that we're dealing with this afternoon, every square inch of Alabama, Georgia, central and eastern Tennessee, upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, and from the Mississippi River east in Mississippi, every square inch of those locations I just named has a high risk of severe weather for the remainder of today and during the overnight. Now, Mississippi, once the line clears your area, you will be clear. The threat will have ended. Alabama, once the line of storms clears your location, you will be clear. And then later on tonight, the same thing for East Alabama and West Georgia. But there is a high-level risk of severe weather everywhere, which includes large, violent tornadoes, damaging straight-line winds, and extremely large hail. I can't tell you how bad it's going to be in Wedowee. I can't tell you how bad it's going to be in Franklin, Valley, Auburn. I can't tell you how bad it's going to be in a specific location, but I can certainly tell you that the opportunity will be there for it to be bad at any location across Alabama and Georgia. Now, will everybody deal with this? The answer is no. There will not be a tornado in every single town across Alabama and Georgia. That's not how this works. But the opportunity will certainly exist in every town in Alabama and Georgia later on this afternoon into this evening. Latest timing for East Alabama, and I'm giving you this with some question marks too. This is the timing of the line of storms. Sometime after 10 p.m. tonight, probably between 10 and 11 p.m. for East Alabama, 11 to 12 midnight for West Georgia. However, if we get supercell thunderstorms developing out ahead of the line of storms, then that could happen sooner. Really, the window of opportunity will open up across East Alabama and West Georgia late this afternoon. So we're going to have to kind of watch this together and see how this evolves. Right now, we're kind of in between a line of storms and singular storms. We have a broken line of storms right now where some of these storms are kind of taking on supercell configuration. So is that the beginning of supercell storms? And do we have a main line that has yet to form out behind it? That's certainly possible. And that idea is plausible. We're watching it in real time to see how this is going to set up. If we don't get supercell storms out ahead of the main line, then all we have to deal with is the main line itself. We would anticipate the strongest tornadoes, the EF2s, 3s, and 4s, and according to the latest information, maybe even a handful of 5s, would most likely come from supercell storms, not the line itself. Along the line, we would anticipate the small spin-up tornadoes, the 0s and the 1s. And that's where the 70, 80-mile-per-hour straight-line winds would likely come from, would be the main line itself. Now, it's going to get very breezy and very windy out ahead of all of this because we're caught in a gradient wind pattern. This is such a powerful low-pressure system to our northwest that's causing all of this. It's got us in a squeeze play where winds are going to start getting breezy. They probably already have. In most locations in Alabama, it's already kind of breezy up here in northeast Georgia. But as the day goes along and these storms get closer to your location, the winds are going to slowly increase even before the storms get to you. And we could easily be looking at 20, 30, maybe even 40-mile-per-hour wind gust before the storms actually reach your location. And that'll be an ongoing thing throughout the remainder of the afternoon. Okay, so I'm going to take the satellite view off of the radar. I think we have established that we have enough of a thin cloud deck out there that instability could certainly be a problem because we've got heating of the day going on out there. And you'll notice those purple flashing areas, which covers well over 2/3 of the state of Alabama and the state of Mississippi. That is your particularly dangerous situation, or PDS tornado watch, that is currently in effect. Alabama's watch goes until 8 p.m. For those of you across East Alabama, West Georgia, that's not included in the PDS tornado watch right now, hang on. It's coming. They will shift this further east as we go throughout the afternoon. And those flashing red polygons you see in Mississippi are all tornado warnings. I'm going to put this in motion so you can kind of see the direction that all of this is moving. And the first thing you're going to say is, oh, they're moving to the north, so it's going to miss us. You got to understand that, yes, the individual storms are moving northeast, but the overall system is moving east. So those storms that you see moving to the northeast that's in Mississippi right now, those individual storms will not move across East Alabama into West Georgia, but new storms will form upstream, and by the time the system as a whole makes it into East Alabama, there will be tornadic storms moving to the northeast there as well. Hope that makes sense. So I'm going to go over here to the chat room. Oh, one other thing I want to talk to you about before we go any further. I was hoping, and in most of the previous severe weather outbreak cases, the storms would move through East Alabama and West Georgia before they moved through Northeast Georgia, which is where I'm physically located. I'm an emergency manager up here. I have priority responsibilities here in White County, Georgia. So I want to establish this early. I'm going to stay with you through this event as long as I can. But it's very possible there may come a point that I have to discontinue my wall-to-wall coverage because of responsibilities here in my county. And I'm probably going to have to make a decision in the next couple of hours if I'm going to do that early or roll the dice and try to wait late. And right now I'm leaning toward doing it early. So if I do make that decision and we stop our live coverage, then I'm going to relocate to our emergency operations center where I can do both. And in a case like that, I will be able to occasionally go live. I will not be able to go wall to wall, and it's going to look totally different. The screen's going to look different. It's going to sound different, but at least I'll be with you. So just keep that in mind, that there is a chance that I may not be able to stay with you in the environment that I'm in right this moment through this entire event. That's why it's so important to have multiple ways of receiving severe weather information. You cannot depend on any one source. And folks, hear me when I say this. Never, ever, ever depend on outdoor warning sirens as your sole source of receiving severe weather information, especially if you're going to be indoors. Now, if you're at a ball field, if you're in the parking lot at the grocery store, then that's what the siren is designed for. But if you're inside your home at 2 o'clock in the morning, that siren is not designed to warn you. Have a different way. Make sure you've got multiple ways to receive severe weather information. 90% of surviving severe weather is being situationally aware. All right, so I'm over in the chat room now. If you have a question, comment, or concern, please repost it because there's already well over 1,000 comments in the room, and there's no way I can go back and catch them all. Hey, Bobby, thank you. I appreciate your kind words. Janine says it's kind of pretty outside in Broughton, and she doesn't want me to leave early. Well, if I do leave, I will come back once I get repositioned. And so that's why I'm really struggling with trying to make a decision. Do I do that now or pretty soon? Or do we wait a little bit longer? I'm leaning toward doing it sooner. But we're going to ride this for a little while longer and see. There's no threat across Alabama at the moment. I mean, anywhere. But those tornadic thunderstorms are getting awfully close to the Alabama state line. As a matter of fact, we are probably about to catch our first warning in Alabama. And it's going to be up there in northwest Alabama. Most likely, if I had to guess, this potential tornado near Armory, Mississippi, about to cross over I-22 between Hamilton, Alabama, and Tupelo, Mississippi. Probably going to end up, we're probably going to catch a tornado warning pretty soon for places like Red Bay, Alabama, Russellville, Phil Campbell. I think it'll be a little bit north of Hamilton. But our first tornado warning of round 2 is probably about to drop. But that's way up in northwest Alabama. That's not a risk for East Alabama and West Georgia. The tornado emergency, it is. Actually, Meridian's got a possible tornado just to the west, crossing over I-20 just west of Meridian. This is your tornado emergency down here northwest of Hattiesburg. It is moving in the general direction of Meridian, but it's still a pretty good ways away. I mean, that's probably a couple of hours away from Meridian right now. All right, so Belinda has a really good question. Do battery-operated NOAA weather radios work inside underground storm shelters? She says that she doesn't understand how they get their signal. Will it pick up a signal? All right, so a NOAA weather radio is just like your car radio in your automobile. It receives a broadcast signal on a frequency. So the National Weather Service has multiple transmitters scattered all across this country. I don't remember exactly how many, but there's quite a few in Alabama. There's a lot in Georgia, and they broadcast on a VHF frequency. And your NOAA weather radio is pre-programmed to receive a signal from one of their broadcast transmitters. So, yes, your NOAA weather radio is signal dependent, meaning that if you go into an underground shelter, you may or may not be able to receive a signal. It all depends on how strong the signal is in that area. When you go into an underground shelter, you would decrease the chances of receiving a really good signal, but it may still work. There are a lot of variables there. How far away is the transmitter? How far underground are you? How weak is the signal, outside in that location already? So there are a lot of different things that would make that determination. But here's the deal. If you take your battery-operated NOAA weather radio with you and you go into a tornado shelter underground, the fact that you can't pick up NOAA radio maybe is not a huge deal because you're already in a very safe location. Then the idea would be, how am I going to understand when the all clear is given? Hopefully, if you're not able to pick up a NOAA weather radio signal, hopefully you have an app on your phone where you would get information. That's why it's important to understand how to read the radar, just the basics, so that you can pull it up on your phone and you can see, are the storms moving toward where I am? And then as the storm moves through, you can see when it's clear to come out of that shelter because you'll be able to recognize that they have moved on away from your area. That's why you hear me preach this all the time, and I do my dead level best to kind of help you guys understand all of this every time we get into this type situation, because there's a lot of this you can learn. It's not rocket science, and that will just increase your knowledge and your ability to protect yourself and your loved ones during severe weather outbreaks. Overwhelming majority of the folks who are injured or lose their life in severe weather, number one, it's preventable. And number two, it's because they were not situationally aware and properly protected when they got into a severe weather situation. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because, 90%, maybe even higher than that, 95% of all injuries and deaths during severe weather could have been prevented. And the overwhelming majority of that percentage happens in automobiles and mobile homes. The two places you absolutely, without any argument whatsoever, should not be during this type of weather setup. It's just not an option unless you're willing to gamble with your life, and that's exactly what you're doing if you stay in a mobile home or get in an automobile in the middle of this type of weather, or you're not situationally aware and you're out going to dinner and you drive right into a tornado. That's all stuff that can be preventable. Scott's asking the question, do you think East Alabama and West Georgia will see the same intensity that is predicted in West Alabama and Central Alabama? I think absolutely there is a good chance that you will. There's nothing to cause an intensity change as these storms move across Alabama. If anything, there may be an increase in intensity. because these storms are moving across Alabama during the daylight with added fuel from the heating of the day. But that's not the only player here. The shear values, the veering of the wind, the strength of the jet stream in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, up to about 3,500 feet, is ridiculous today. And that's where the severe stuff comes from. You just add that instability at the ground, it just intensifies. So I think there's a high likelihood that storms will at least maintain, if not increase, in intensity as they move across the state of Alabama into West Georgia, and maybe even all the way across the state of Georgia. All right, another good question. Janine's asking the question about how safe is it to stay in a store like Walmart. Absolutely safer than staying in a mobile home. And that's a great plan. That's a fantastic plan. If you can't find a shelter to go to, then go hang out at Walmart. Go shopping until the all clear is given. Now, if you're going to be in a big open span building like that, then I would highly suggest that you try to position yourself in the store so that you're not on the side of the store that the storm is coming from. And then maybe get, I know they have, most Walmarts have the restrooms. Sometimes they're in the front, sometimes they're in the back, sometimes they're in both locations. You want to put as much between you and the storm as you can. And is a large open span building like a Walmart the best idea? No, it's not the best idea, but it is certainly better than a mobile home or an automobile, or even a home that's not very well built. Oh, Kaylee. Kaylee got the buzzer. Can I give my opinion on how bad the weather will be in Noonan, Georgia? Follow along, everybody. Every square inch of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, upstate South Carolina, and western North Carolina stands a high risk of receiving serious, damaging, and severe weather today as this line of storms moves across the southeastern United States. Does that mean that every square inch is going to receive severe weather? And the answer is no. It's not how this works. But the possibility is there for every square inch of Alabama and Georgia. There is no area that is immune to severe weather. There is no area that may see worse severe weather than other areas, and it's absolutely impossible for me to tell you exactly what's going to happen in any particular location across Alabama or Georgia. But I can tell you that the risk for significant severe weather is almost as high as it can get for Alabama and Georgia today. Let me go back to the graphics. There's the latest graphic from the National Weather Service. You see that risk level 5 across west and central Alabama, and then the level 4 across east Alabama. Well, that level 4 goes well into Georgia. Black Dodge Dakota, thank you for subscribing to us. We appreciate that. And so this risk, and look, there's no difference really between a 5 and a 4. We get so wrapped up sometimes in having these beautiful graphics and having different levels, and this means this and this means that. Every single person across every square inch of Alabama and Georgia stands a very high risk of experiencing severe weather today, including long-track violent tornadoes. We're talking EF2s, 3s, 4s, and even 5s are possible. Damaging straight-line winds and large hail. Will it happen over every square inch of Alabama and Georgia? No, it will not. The majority of you will not have to deal with a tornado today. but we can't tell you those who will. And I'm almost 100% positive some folks will have to deal with it, but we can't tell you exactly where that's going to be. So I hope that for those of you who have asked or are thinking about asking for pinpoint specific location weather possibilities, I hope that kind of covers it for you. Broad picture here today. We can't tell you exactly what's going to happen at any one location across the area. This is what happened in Missouri last night. Devastated a mobile home park. Lots of devastation up there. I've been so busy focused on Alabama and Georgia, I have not looked to see, and I'm almost afraid to look and see how many injuries or possible fatalities they had up there. St. Louis also had a big tornado. We had a big one down in central Mississippi last night. This is the kind of weather we could see anywhere in Alabama and Georgia, beginning in about an hour or so across West Alabama, and then slowly moving across the state of Alabama and Georgia as we get into the afternoon. Here's a good graphic that kind of shows you the best place to shelter in place in your home and where to go if a warning is issued for your area. If you live in a split-level home, obviously you want to go as low as you can. If you have a basement, that's the best idea. You want to get in the middle of that basement, or if your basement is completely underground, anywhere in the basement is fine. If you're partially underground, you have one wall that is exposed, then you want to stay away from that exposure. If you have a basement and then you have a first floor, then you want to go to the center of that first floor. If you can't get to the basement or you don't have a basement, you want to go to the center of the lowest floor you have available. Of course, you don't want to go to a second story floor or an attic. You want to be as low as you can. So go to the center of the lowest floor. Basement is always the best idea. And then when you go into that safe place, that's what you want to look like right there. You want that bicycle helmet, baseball, football, motorcycle helmet, anything to protect your head. Most of the injuries that occur during a tornado are upper torso, neck, shoulders, neck, head area. Blunt force trauma is where most of the injuries are during a tornado event. So you want to do everything you can to protect your head. Some other ideas on some things you can do when you go, some things that you can have available to help you in your safe place would be, of course, those helmets that I talked about, and you need one for everybody. If you have an infant child, go ahead and get that child's car seat and put that in your safe place, because you want to put that child in that car seat and strap them in. You want pillows, blankets, cushions, mattresses. Baby bed mattresses, futon mattresses are always a good idea. Hard sole shoes. Make sure everybody has on hard sole shoes. And you want something that can make a loud noise. A whistle is probably the best idea. But those horns that you can get that are compressed air in a can, that's a great idea. You want to make sure you keep your phones charged today. Keep them plugged up. Keep them on full battery. And if you have backup battery options for your phone, go ahead and put them in your safe place. So in the event that you are there for a long, extended period of time, you'll have backup battery for your phone. Places not to go during tornado warnings, or in this case today, even during severe thunderstorm warnings. Do not go, if at all possible. Now, it depends on what your current situation is as to whether or not you should do this. If you have absolutely no other option, then this is going to be an exception. But if you do have other options, don't go into buildings with flat, wide open roofs, such as cafeterias, gyms, and that sort of thing. obviously, mobile homes and automobiles are a major no-no in this type of weather. Now, you don't have to leave your mobile home and you don't have to get out of your car until the weather gets pretty close to you, but you got to make sure you leave yourself enough time to get to where you're going. The best rule of thumb, you evacuate a mobile home when a watch is issued. So right now, you folks that are in Talladega County of the Dr. Don coverage area should probably go ahead and consider going to your shelter place, if you have one pre-identified, within the next hour or so. That should give you plenty of time to get there before the weather hits. Be weather aware. We've talked to you about that multiple times today. You got to know where you're at on a map. You got to understand how to read a map. You got to have some general understanding of which way the weather is moving and where you are in relation to that weather. Understand the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch is what we have right now. That simply means that conditions are favorable for severe thunderstorms and tornadoes in and around the watch area. A warning means it's actually happening. Be prepared for power outages. We could be looking at 2-3 days without power in some areas. Not everybody's going to lose power, but there's a high risk across the entire state of Alabama and Georgia that you could lose power. The entire states won't lose power, but the risk is high in any given location across Alabama and Georgia. So be prepared for that. Have enough food and water to get you through 2 to 3 days. And that's why it's important to keep that cell phone charged, because you never know when that's going to happen, and have backup power for your cell phones as well. So those are some things that you can do to be safe as we deal with this severe weather today. Crawl space is an option if you have no other options. Your apartment is on the second floor. Where should you go? Make friends with someone who lives on the ground floor. If you don't have you should. If you live in an apartment complex, you should have a designated tornado safe place. I would get in touch with management and find out where that is. If management doesn't know, then they need to figure it out. And your next option would be make friends with somebody that lives on the ground floor. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate your kind words. Again, crawl spaces under homes maybe is certainly not the most convenient option. I mean, if you're living in a well-built home, I wouldn't do that. I'd go to the center of the lowest floor in that home. But if there's a particular reason you're concerned and you think you need to go to a crawl space, that's not the worst option, but I wouldn't call it the best either. It's dirty under there. There's things under there. If you're talking about under a mobile home, no. You need to leave the mobile home, get away from the mobile home. If we're talking about crawl space under a house, then I would just go to the center of the lowest floor in your home versus going into a crawl space. Do I believe that we'll see any weakening after nightfall? In this particular case, no, I do not. I think because of what's going on in the upper levels of the atmosphere, I believe these storms will stand a good chance of maintaining their intensity, even though we lose the heating of the day. Oh, Rhonda. Follow along, people. Alabama, every square inch of Alabama and Georgia upstate South Carolina, and western North Carolina. And I'm leaving Mississippi out because the worst of this is about to be out of Mississippi. Every square inch of Alabama, Georgia, upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, and eastern central Tennessee is in a high-risk category of severe weather today, including all modes of severe weather: dangerous, violent, damaging tornadoes, damaging straight-line winds, and large hail. There's no one particular location in those states that may have different type weather than others. Does that mean everybody's going to deal with it? No, it does not. Can I tell you exactly who's going to get it and who is not going to get it? No, I cannot. You got to be prepared for the absolute worst case scenario. And if it doesn't happen in your location, then you are blessed. But some folks somewhere across Alabama, Georgia, are going to deal with significant weather today. And I cannot tell you if any one particular location is going to be worse than the other. Alabama Granny says that she never thought that we'd be hoping for no sunshine, but in this case, she has lots of sunshine, and I was awfully afraid that was what was going to happen today. And I know a lot of you do have full-blown sunshine out there, and a lot of you have filtered sunlight. That it might as well be full-blown sunshine because that thin upper deck is not going to keep the surface from warming up. But understand, that's not the only ingredient we're working with here. I mean, even without surface-based instability, these storms are going to be powerful. Ann's watching us in Corinth. Okay, May says 18 dead so far. I have not been able to confirm that. Like I said, I have been, other than about 2 hours of sleep earlier this morning, I've been wide open. I just have not had a chance to go look, and that's very sad that we're seeing 18 dead so far. And I think the majority of that's probably going to be in Missouri, probably some in Arkansas as well, and maybe even some in Mississippi. And that's the kind of weather that kind of puts it into perspective. And that's the kind of weather that's going to be marching across Alabama and Georgia later today. No, I know that's not in Alabama because we're just now catching our first tornado warning in Alabama. Hey, Gus. Well, I can tell you right now, it's pretty simple. The entire state of Alabama and the state of Georgia is under a high risk for severe weather, including very strong, long-lived tornadoes, damaging straight-line winds, and very large hail. We have a possibility here that we may see some supercell thunderstorms that develop out ahead of a main line of thunderstorms. We would expect those bigger tornadoes to come from supercell storms. Right now, we kind of have a broken line. We're watching to see how this is going to evolve as we go throughout the afternoon. But the possibility is out there for significant weather across every square inch of Alabama and Georgia. Question, what part, let's see, I saw a hotel question. Is a hotel a safe place option in your opinion? Generally speaking, yes, if we're talking about leaving a mobile home. That is safer than staying in a mobile home. Again, see if you can get a room on the lowest floor. That would certainly be a better option than staying in a mobile home. All right, so we have a PDS tornado watch covering most of the state of Alabama with the exception of extreme east Alabama and southeast Alabama. And we have our first tornado warning now in the state of Alabama. And I told you about 20 minutes ago that this was going to happen, and here we are. We have a tornado warning now in effect for Red Bay, Alabama, and that polygon stretches back over toward Russellville, just to the west of Phil Campbell. That possible tornado is crossing over I-22 in Mississippi and is about to move into Alabama to the southwest of Red Bay. And let me see. All right. So we're looking at a little bit of a different radar look here. And what I want to do is show you what this tornado looks like that's coming up into Red Bay, Alabama. I'll bring that current and stop the loop. And that's right there on top of the radar. So let me back out and go to Birmingham. Stand by. This is kind of... Okay, now then we can see it a little bit better, I think. All right, so that tornado, the part of the storm they're warning for, and that's still pretty noisy. There could be rotation in a couple of different locations there. I think they were warning for this area, but the polygons are a little bit removed from that. I can't get a good look at that, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, we do have a tornado warning up there for Red Bay, Alabama, back up toward Russellville. That is the first tornado warning so far this afternoon. I'm afraid it's the first of many, many more to come. And let me look at this on the WSV3. And I think we have multiple rotations going on here. We could have something happening right there. And again right here. I want you to look at the wind that's running out ahead of this storm complex, though. Look at that. 60, almost 70 miles per hour there just west of Phil Campbell. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what we were saying earlier. Just ahead of these storms, the wind is going to pick up tremendously, and we're seeing that in North Alabama right now. Yeah, multiple tornadoes on the ground in Mississippi. That is a true statement. I think we have multiple tornadoes in that one complex that's coming in near Red Bay, Alabama. But then we still have this tornado situation just to the northwest of Meridian. We have another one just west of Laurel, Mississippi. We have one just west of Hattiesburg. We have one near Macomb, Mississippi. And then we have one in Louisiana just to the northeast of Hammond, north of I-10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6, 7 active tornado warnings with possible tornadoes on the ground in Mississippi at this hour. And again, we have that PDS tornado watch that extends all the way over to Clay County, but does not include Clay. It does include Calhoun and Talladega in our coverage area. It also gets Coosa and Elmore and Montgomery. Currently, Cleburne, Clay, Randolph, Tallapoosa, Chambers, Lee, Harris, Hurd, Troop, Carroll, Meriwether, and Coweta counties of our coverage area are not included in this tornado watch at the moment, though that's probably going to change as the day goes along. I would anticipate this entire watch box to be pushed further to the east as we get into the afternoon hours. Thank you, Mike. Again, folks, I want to remind you that there is a shelter open at the 5 Points Elementary School. There in 5 Points, it's in the fallout shelter of the elementary school. There are no amenities at all. It is just a safe place underground for you to go. So if you go to that shelter, take everything you think you might need with you. Your pets are welcome, but they must be on a leash or in a crate. I'm talking bring everything, such as a place, a chair to sit in, water, anything you might need. You need to bring it with you. So that shelter is open. There are number of locations around East Alabama and West Georgia. We have the new tornado shelter in Wadley that is available for you. We have the senior center in Wedowee up in Woodland that's available for you. We have the storm station in downtown Roanoke, there in the old Kane Communications building, that is available for you. Though that one is not a FEMA-approved type storm shelter, it's still better than staying in a mobile home. And then I'm telling you, we've got there are hundreds of shelters, I think, now available across Alabama and Georgia, and it just became overwhelming. There's no way I could keep up with it. So you're welcome to post those shelters here in the chat room to share with other folks if you know of a shelter that is open. Hurd County High School has opened their first level. They're opening their doors at 7:30. Hurd County High School at 7:30. Will be a good option for you if you're in the Franklin area. But if you live in a mobile home, I want you to seriously, folks, you got to get out of mobile homes. Now, the majority of you are going to leave your mobile home for no reason whatsoever. And tomorrow morning, I guarantee you, I know what's about to happen. Tomorrow morning, folks are going to be complaining because we told you to get out of your mobile homes and nothing happened. Then you be blessed, my friend. You be sitting on the front pew at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you're one of those that had to leave your mobile home and absolutely nothing happened, you are a blessed being. Hallelujah. Because if we get one person out of a mobile home and save their life, then your couple of hours worth of inconvenience was well worth it. And again, I'm not picking on mobile homes at all. I've lived in them. I will live in them again. I love mobile homes. But it is what it is. Facts are the facts. And you can fact check me all you want to. Majority of injuries and fatalities come from automobiles and mobile homes. Been that way for years. Yet you still have those folks who just won't pay attention to you. And that's okay. If you want to play with those odds and roll the dice and take that gamble, that is certainly your prerogative to do so. "81 degrees with strong winds in Ohatchee." That's not a good combination, any way you want to look at it. All right, so it's coming up on 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and I got to make some decisions. So I'm going to step aside for a few moments while I look at a few things offline and try to coordinate what my next move is going to be as we get into as we head into this event. I still think the timing for East Alabama, again, it depends on how this lines up. We are beginning to see storms form in southwest Alabama. It's 2 o'clock. Those storms are probably at least a couple hours away from you. So 4 o'clock, and I've been telling you since last Saturday, over a week now, that window of opportunity is going to open at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, and that's exactly what I think we're beginning to see. So I think timing, those supercell thunderstorms could start developing around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Then the main line would come through maybe 9, 10, 11 p.m. this evening. These are central times for East Alabama. You folks in West Georgia, simply add an hour to that. So that's the timing. And, you can look at the radar and see what's out there. At the moment, we have one tornado warning in Alabama. That's up there near Red Bay. And that's a pretty significant looking storm right there. A tornado warning remains in effect until 2:15 p.m. for Franklin County in northwest Alabama. At 1:59 p.m., a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Bell Green, or 11 miles east of Red Bay, moving to the northeast at 55 miles per hour. The hazard with this storm is a tornado and ping-pong ball-sized hail. It is radar indicated. So that's radar indicated. And that's the only warning we have in Alabama at the moment. But we have multiple storms potentially producing tornadoes back through Mississippi and all the way down into Louisiana. So I'm going to step aside, take a break, look at a few things, try to make some decisions. Oh, we have a new severe thunderstorm watch now for Tennessee. So maybe the tornado threat is not quite as significant in Tennessee. Or wait a minute, hold on. No, my bad. That's just a tornado watch. It's not a PDS tornado watch. So I was checking you down the wrong road. That is a tornado watch for central and eastern Tennessee. It's just not a PDS tornado watch. That's why you see a difference in color here. The purple is a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch, which we don't see very often in the southeast. And then that yellow area up in Tennessee is a regular tornado watch. Not to minimize what could happen in Tennessee, but it's just not quite to the level as what we may see across Alabama. And I think eventually East Alabama, West Georgia goes under this PDS watch as well. I think it will get moved. And that's probably going to be my trigger point on making a decision on whether I'm going to stay in the studio or go to our emergency operations center and try to do this remotely. We'll see. All right, so I'm going to step aside for probably 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and then I'll be back, and I'll let you know what we're going to do and how we're going to work the rest of this situation here on Dr. Don's Weather. Y'all stay weather aware, take a break, get you something to eat, and I'll be back with you in 15 to 30 minutes or so.